friends. Welcome to episode 41 of School Librarians United. I am your host, Amy Herman. This podcast is dedicated to the issues and challenges school librarians face every day. As a school librarian starting my 13th year, I found myself asking the question, where is the podcast that will help me do my job? I wanted a podcast which addressed the nuts and bolts of running a successful library program. I don't claim to have the answers, but I hope that this is a platform to share resources and exchange ideas. Now is a perfect time to mention that all the ideas and opinions expressed in this podcast by myself and my interview guests are our own and do not reflect those of our school districts. When incorporating research, I always make sure to cite my sources, so whether you are a novice or a veteran school librarian, this podcast is something for you. I would like to extend a very special hello this week to listeners Rebecca in California, Deborah in Texas, and Sandy in Massachusetts. I really enjoyed our exchanges on social media. I don't know if you call them messaging back and forth a conversation, but it certainly is meaningful to me. I feel the more I learn about listeners to the podcast, the more relevant this podcast becomes for everyone. I welcome you and all listeners to reach out with your feedback and episode suggestions, either on Facebook or Twitter, or my email address, schoollibrariansunited@gmail.com. If you include your mailing address, I will be sure to send you a podcast sticker. You are in for an absolute treat. Joining me today is Amanda Jones. She is a font of knowledge and experience and is generous to share all of it with us today. Be especially sure to visit our show notes for Amanda's ISTE 19 presentation, Put Your Selfie Out There, using social media to showcase your school library. And for those of you lucky enough to be attending AASL this November, I highly recommend you attend her sessions. Today's episode is the next best thing to hiring a social media consultant to coach you and share tips and tricks in promoting your brand. In this case, your library. And now, my conversation with Amanda Jones. Tell us all about yourself.
Hi, my name is Amanda Jones, and I am a 19-year educator. In Louisiana, I've always taught and been a librarian at the same school that I also went to middle school at.
No, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And I actually work with people that I went to school with, and now I'm working with people that I taught. So there's I say small community, but we're growing pretty quickly. But it's very small community, or at least it was. We now I think we have 3 red lights now. Yeah, we're not even incorporated. Sorry, we're classified as a village.
That's cute. That's very quaint.
Yeah. But we have, I work at a school at Live Oak Middle School, and we have around 740 5th and 6th grade students. So I taught ELA for 14 years. We were 7th and 8th grade school at one point, and then 6th through 8th grade. And then we split and divided into 2 schools. So now we're 5th and 6th. And about 4 years ago, I became the librarian. And I was actually the librarian there my very first year. The former librarian was on sabbatical, and that's how I got the job at my school. And I loved it so much, I stayed as a ELA teacher. But I stepped back into the role of librarian around 4 years ago.
Well, it sounds like you were in the right place at the right time.
Yes.
So let me ask you, in your school, it's just 5th and 6th grade?
Just 5th and 6th.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've got to imagine, just from a collection perspective, that's just like so targeted. We don't have a 5th, 6th, like an academy in my neighborhood, but I got to think that as a librarian, what a delight. Because I have 4.5-year-olds to 11-year-olds. So that comes with some concerns. On the one hand, it's wonderful to see all the ages, but when you consider it from a collection development perspective, there's a lot of needs you have to fill when you have that many different grades.
And money-wise, I can focus all my money, which is not very much, but With the money, I can focus on just those age groups, and I can pretty much get anything I want that for that age group, because I'm not having to spread it out so much.
Of course, that sounds like so much fun. Now, tell me a little bit about the programs that you offer, and because it really, I'm always fascinated to hear about different people's schedules and your teaching assignments, and what kind of time do you have to develop programs?
I'm very fortunate that our principal, my administrators give me full support, and I can pretty much do whatever I want.
Oh, let's make sure they're listening to this recording too.
Yeah. Oh, I told him he's going to be listening.
Good.
But he gives me complete freedom, so I'm very fortunate to have the schedule that I want. And so what I did was, it takes about 5 days for all of our ELA classes to come through the library. And what I do is, each ELA class comes in for an hour for a solid week. And I do a lesson, read them a story, do a lesson, because even though they're in 5th and 6th grade, they still like to sit on the carpet and listen to a story.
Thank you. Absolutely.
And I teach them a lesson, usually on digital citizenship or how to navigate the library. And then they have checkout time and makerspace time. And that takes a full week. And then the following week, I'm completely wide open for the core teachers to schedule. Wow. So our math, science, social studies, elective teachers can open and schedule. And just to give you an idea of how coveted time slots are in the library, we've been back in school for 2 weeks. And on the first day of our in-service back at school, I presented them with all of the open days. And within 25 minutes, I was booked through December.
Oh my gosh. Well, I can't imagine a more, what a confidence, resounding sort of, affirmation that you are clearly highly sought after in your library, both you and your library.
It's, I'm waiting for them to get into an actual fist fight over it one day. Hopefully not really, but they put in, I give them little slips of paper, and I'm like, first come, first serve, whoever turns it in first. And I just go through the stack. And fortunately, everybody that turned in one, I was able to give them at least 1 or 2 days from now to December to book. And I'll collaborate with them. I'll email them, say, what are your standards that you're covering currently, or the time that you're booked? Would you prefer a Skype session, mystery Skype, author Skype, breakout box, research lesson, something with stop motion or green screen, and we just kind of they'll throw some ideas out there. Maybe we can do all three. We can do a green screen and a research and a breakout box, and we'll just email back and forth, collaborate till we come up with a lesson. And
wow, it sounds like you have the best of both worlds.
I do. I'm very fortunate because we're a feeder school of 3 elementaries.
Okay,
and they're not as fortunate at the elementary level. Whereas they're seen as a special. And so they give the planning time. And at my school, it's run like a junior high. So all the teachers have off hours. So it's not a planning time. It's a classroom. And so I have a little more free reign.
Well, and can I just ask, because you've just described me and my position. I teach 6 classes a day. I am release time. And teachers drop them off at the door and pick them up 45 minutes later. And that has been my situation for the last 12 years. But can I ask, when you are working with your teachers, that means they're in the room with you.
Oh, yes.
A team effort. I mean, that's fantastic.
Complete team effort. When our school split a few years ago, we were 6th through 8th grade, and then we split into a 5th, 6th school and a 7th, 8th. When we split, we got 3/4 new faculty at my school. So I chose to stay at my school and do 5th and 6th grade. And so it was a whole new faculty coming in. And so when I did my first presentation to the new faculty, I kind of framed it as, you have to stay in the library with me. And they kind of thought that's what we always did. But no, they love coming in, and it's a team effort. We team teach, we run ideas back and forth. Even when it's the ELA classes that are coming in for the ELA time to check out books, and the teachers stay the whole time.
But and in that respect, at least there's some of that supervision responsibility has been taken off of your shoulders. Because as somebody who's trying to teach 27 4.5-year-olds, by myself, it sometimes looks more like a circus. And so I I hope you appreciate just how
yeah.
fantastic your job is. So,
I'm very, very lucky.
that's wonderful. Well, I'm glad for it. How nice for you. How nice for you. I was lucky enough to meet you at your presentation in ISTE's Philadelphia's conference this June, and you had a presentation. It just caught my eye, and I had to see this. It's called "Put Your Selfie Out There," and it was during the School Librarians Playground. And for our listeners, you can be sure I'm going to be putting a link to Amanda's presentation in the show notes, because this was fantastic. Because for somebody such as myself, I am learning as I go, and Amanda was kind enough to entertain my questions and then agree to do an interview, because I really think that a lot of librarians are interested in creating a presence for their library on social media and the different social media platforms, but getting sort of into it can be a little daunting. So take it away, Amanda. Tell me what your inspiration was for this presentation.
Well, when I stepped back into the role of librarian at my school, I noticed that a lot of parents and a lot of faculty at my school had the idea that librarians just check out books. And I guess they thought we read all day, read books and checked out books, and that was all that we did. And I was doing so much more than that, and I didn't really know how to show it outside of my school. So I thought, well, what better way than social media? Because I don't know if it's like this everywhere, but in my community, everybody's obsessed with social media, the kids, the parents. I thought, well, maybe I'll create a library, Facebook, and maybe eventually Instagram and Twitter, and see how it goes. And I talked to my principal, because schools didn't really have Facebooks in my community at that point. And he's like, I don't know. Sounds like you might, I don't know, might can get you in trouble. He's very anti-Facebook. And I said, just let me try it. So I started posting pretty much anything and everything that I do. If a kid's checking out a book, we get new books, if there's recess time, there's a good game of Uno going on, we're doing a breakout box, I make sure to take a picture of it and post it. And it was received very well in my community. Before I knew it, parents were tagging each other, sharing it. And they're like, oh, so this is what a library looks like. We didn't know that you did all this.
Well, I think you are not alone in that respect. I think there are a great deal, many of us, who are trying to counter that gross misconception that all we do is scan books. I've actually had somebody stick their head into the library, and she was one of our parent volunteers, and she said, did you really have to go to school to learn how to scan books?
Oh, yeah.
And I said, well, did you have to go to school to learn how to scan the groceries when you go at the Kroger? And she's like, no. And I said, well, I do a lot of things. But I think in the interest of self-preservation, not just, selfishly, you want to promote your program, but you also want to make sure that people value what you do. And what better way than to make sure that what they're seeing is fantastic learning that's happening in the library.
And not only to show what we do in the library, but it's also, once you get the parents hooked to pay attention, you can share reading lists. Mm-hmm. And we're a very conservative town, and so I sneak in some list of very diverse books that maybe they would not have heard about on their own. Put in little articles about graphic novels, because they don't think that graphic novels are real books. So I sneak in literature in there and links to articles and presentations, not just my library program, but to see that there's more out there than the books that we had, that I'm getting more diverse collections, and just to share, because they really don't, parents, I guess they think of the library as what it was like when they were kids.
Of course.
And we've just grown so much, and we do so many things with STEM education and maker spaces. Before I started promoting the library, I don't think our parish had heard about maker spaces. And so I started posting about, look at the makerspace, and people were, what's a makerspace? Well, now it's parish wide. I'm not saying that it's because of my post, but it started to catch on. And then they just learned so many new things about what we do in the library. I don't think if I had that social media platform, they would know. They wouldn't know who I was or
Sure.
how much I
Well,
cared about the
and I think
kids.
that it's important because what you're doing is, in effect, you're educating. You're using social media to educate the taxpayers in your community of the value of your program. And you're right, it does catch on. And other parents say, wait a minute, I want that for my kids in their school. And it makes all the sense in the world. So I do want to back up a minute because I was very impressed by anybody who presented at ISTE. It's such an enormous program. Could you give us some advice for school librarians who are looking to apply? The presentation window for the regular presentations closes on September 7th, 27th. Could you, just for anybody who's toying around with the idea, oh, maybe I'd like to present it at ISTE, what would you recommend?
Just go for it. Just go for it. I still can't believe that I actually submitted a proposal and that it was actually accepted, because ISTE's huge. It's just a huge conference. I got there and I'm looking around and it's people that I follow on Twitter, that I've had conversations with, my librarian heroes. And I'm like, how am I in this same playground with these people that I've admired for years? And really, it's just, I said, I'm just going to go for it. And so if you have something you're passionate about, like I'm passionate about sharing about social media, just apply. You never know. I mean, if they say no, try again next year, work on it, but you'll never know if you don't try.
Sure, sure. Well, I definitely was impressed. I was interested because you also, you're very modest, but you won something, an award that was quite special. The AASL Social Media Superstar Program Pioneer. And I'm very aware of all this micro-credentialing and the badging and all the different badges people have on their signature line. And yours is one that not many people get to have. So tell me a little bit about this, because that was very exciting, I'm sure.
Oh, it's another thing. I still can't believe that I was chosen. It's like so surreal to me. Yeah, a friend of mine and I were talking, and she's like, "You ought to submit for this." I'm like, "No, there's no way. This is a national award. There's just no way." And so she talked me into it. She sort of nominated me, and I had a little input on it. And then I got the notice that I was a finalist, and I was looking at all the people I was up against for finalists. I'm like, oh, there's no way, because the two finalists, that the other two librarians that were finalists with me, I followed them for years. They're just fabulous librarians, and but I said, well, I better up my game and make sure I'm continually posting things, and so I just continued posting, do what I was doing, and I said, well, I'm trying to showcase my program. I've been doing it for 2-3 years, so I just kept showcasing like I always did. And then the day that they announced on Twitter, it was funny because I had a class and they were doing a breakout box, and I knew they were gonna at 12 o'clock or 2 or 12. They were making the announcement, and we don't have cell phone service in my library, so I had to stand by the door. And the kids were like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I have to see. It's something on Twitter." And the kids all stopped for 30 seconds and looked at me, and I looked at them and I did a fist bump and they all cheered me. They were like, "She's proud of it."
But I think that's important that your students recognize when we do something in the interest of promoting our program, and obviously the program that they're benefiting from. That's fantastic. I just was really impressed. Can I ask you, when you put this presentation together, it was so thoughtful because you mentioned a word of caution when you get involved with promoting your program on social media. And I think that's important because it's very easy to just jump right in and get started. But I like that you looked at this cautiously.
Yes. I started with Facebook, and when you start promoting on social media, it's always, I think, best to start with the platform that you're most comfortable with. And I was very comfortable with Facebook, but we have, I don't want to say internet trolls that like to troll some of our pages, our school Facebook pages. And so my principal was very concerned. Be careful what you put out there. So I do caution people to make sure you word things very carefully because people seem to get offended very easily. Um, Make sure that if it's something controversial, maybe delete the comment section on that post. But be very aware that kids are reading what you're writing, and be very professional, but even when they sometimes, and mostly 99% of the time, it is. I get it's wonderful comments, but every now and then you get somebody that wants to complain, and the first thing I want to do is be defensive and go right back at them. Like, no, that's not what we're doing. So you do have to be very careful of what you post because thousands of people are looking at it.
Sure. Can I ask you, just as an aside, in all my buildings, I work in about 4 buildings a year, there's always a small, short list of people who do not want pictures of their children being released. And they make it very, very clear. I know some folks only take pictures of their students from behind. And so can you speak a little to that?
Yes, we actually, our district puts out a media release. And so the students get it on the first day of school, kind of with their all the information packets that parents have to sign. And so they all turn them back in, and they have the option of saying, no, do not post my child. And out of 740 students, I think we had 7 last year. And because it's so few, and the parents have signed off on it, we have complete permission to post pictures. Make sure we don't post last names, but first name, last initial, or sometimes just first names. I don't really usually post names, period, unless it's something specific, like a kid won a reading challenge, or I do a talk about it Tuesday book talk, and so I'll put the child's name. But in general, I don't usually put names. But we have permission from every parent that has signed off on a waiver. And because there was only 7 students last year, there's only 2 this year. So you know who those kids are. So when you're taking a picture, I make sure maybe their back is to me. Or if it's a Skype session and I'm taking a picture of the whole class, I'll go in and very subtly pixelate their face where it's not quite so obvious that I pixelated them. But yeah, I would suggest that when you do start posting, you make sure you have permission. Because,
well, and I know some of my teachers refer to them just by grade level. So, the 6th graders are in the library today, or the 5th graders are in the library today. And I know that is appreciated. So, no, that's fantastic. Can you tell me also, your students are obviously aware that you are posting on social media.
Oh, yes.
And I appreciate that you use this as an opportunity to teach responsible and respectful use for social media, because the students, whether we like it or not, are going to be on these platforms or adjacent platforms, similar platforms, sooner than I think we know.
I was very surprised when I started with Facebook, and that's parents. Or as my high school interns, they say the old folks only look at Facebook. But so I started with Facebook, and then I branched out to Instagram because of the younger parents. But I was surprised at how many of our 5th and 6th graders have Instagram accounts, like hundreds of them. And it was shocking to me that they all had Instagram. And I didn't even realize it until I was taking pictures, and they were like, is this Insta-worthy? Are you posting this picture today? And I didn't realize that there were so many kids. So I started, when I teach digital citizenship, I talked to them about it. I'm like, who's seen the Instagram? Or, and they all raise their hands. And I said, we talk about posting and what's appropriate and what's not. I have had some students post inappropriate comments on our Instagram, and I've had to talk to them about it. But it is a good chance to show that you can get on social media without arguing about everything and posting inappropriate content like some of our students unfortunately like to post, and set a good example for them of how to run a social media page without being disrespectful or.
Well, and when I talk to my students about social media, I said, I don't, because I'm addressing fifth graders, and I'm aware most of these platforms ask that you are at least 13 and that you check a box that you are at least 13. And I said to my room, and because I teach elementary, I said, I know for a fact that the only 13-year-old in this room is me. And they like that. And I said, so keep in mind, just as you can lie about your age and be older, there are individuals out there who can lie about their age and make themselves younger. And it's not hard. If you can do it, so can everybody else. And, keep that in mind, that what you put out there is being seen by everyone. So,
and I find I think, because I tell my students the same thing, the fifth and sixth graders, and I find that they just have a hard time wrapping their heads around it. That people can lie on the internet, and that who they're talking to could be a 60-year-old or, they're 12. I'm talking, no.
But no. I mean, the important thing is that you're having these conversations with the kids, because that, I think in many respects, my teachers are very aware I teach research skills and that I teach this digital citizenship component. And for them, that is valuable, because for many parents especially, this can't happen soon enough. I love your presentation. And again, I want everybody to have a chance to take a look at it. But you went in and gave a very comprehensive list of the things that you feature on your social media. And I do want to go through many of these, because I think as a librarian, I forget the fact that people don't know what I do on a daily basis. People make assumptions, as you said. And so I do like if we can go through this and talk about some of the things, because many of us go about our day and say, well, why would I post that? That looks boring, or that's what I do all day. Well, of course, that's what you do all day, but the parents don't know that. So would you start to tell us some of the things that you feature on your social media accounts?
Yes. In fact, last week I posted our fifth graders start self-checkout, which is something that they don't do at the elementary school. And I had posted last week, and I got so many emails from parents, but, I saw on Facebook or Instagram, the kids get to check out their own books. How cool is that? And ownership and of the library. And so even something small like self-checkout that you just think is, we do it every day. The parents don't know. So things like self-checkout, or I have 4 after-school clubs. So we post a lot. Yeah, I don't know.
You're busy.
So we have a novel bunch book club. We're starting a silent reading club we call it the Reading Club for Introverts this year. We're doing Wizards of Watson, which my town is Watson, which is a Dungeons and Dragons role playing. Girls Who Code. I actually have 2 chapters of Girls Who Code. So I post a lot about that to see what we do on after school clubs. But even little stuff like our 6th graders, we do an international bookmark exchange. And some of the parents, the kids last year, they got there. We took pictures of them holding their bookmarks from Hungary and China and where else? Romania. And the parents said, we're posting, well, my kid didn't even tell me about this. They didn't even know they had received bookmarks from other countries.
Can I ask you just a clarification? When you do an international bookmark exchange, what does that entail?
It's and I want to say it's the International Librarian Association, I think, is who puts it on. So what it is you can go in and you can sign up to have your students make bookmarks. And you can do, this year they have a digital component. So if you don't want to do actual physical bookmarks, you can do a digital bookmark. But you go in and you sign up, you say where you're from and how many students you have. And there's someone, it's a Google form, and someone goes in and matches you to other schools. And we have around 370 sixth graders. So I take all of the different ELA classes and I break them down to how many numbers. And then someone matches me with another country, another librarian in another country. And so the kids make bookmarks, and I tell them ours to usually do a Louisiana theme or a United States theme, and they're welcome to put their email on there with parent permission. And we send it over to whatever country, and with a little information about our school. We send pictures of our school and our state. and our country, and then we get the same thing back. And so the kids learn about that country, and the kids, and some of them have emailed in other countries. It's pretty neat. They tell me Google Translator makes everything easier.
Can I just ask you from an administrative perspective, is this really time consuming? I think that would, as a librarian taking on a new program, that would be one of my questions. Is this time consuming?
Not really. I ask the teachers if they want to be involved in it, and I just give it to them. I give them the cardstock and yarn to make little tassels, and I say, hey, I need this many bookmarks by this date, and they just turn them into me, and then I pay for the postage out of library funds. It doesn't, maybe an hour of my time a year.
Oh, that's amazing. And I can imagine, for kids, especially kids who've maybe not left their hometown, this is a way to really interact with students from around the world.
Yes, and because we're a very small town, and we're poorer community, rural community, and a lot of the kids don't get to travel. So for me, this is a way for them to see the world. And we talk about, well, where is Romania, and we'll look at a map and look where this is, and they're all the way over here, and they wrote to us, and it's just really neat for them to connect, because some of them can't even travel into Texas is something they've never done, which is the state right next to us. So getting to an actual book where this really came from Romania. Yes, it really did.
Well, I'll make sure to put a link in the show notes to this program. And, that's fun. I mean, it's always neat to introduce new programs. Tell us a few more things that you feature on social media.
Well, we do. We celebrate World Read Aloud Day. And so we have community members coming in, and I share pictures. I'm like, look, Sergeant so-and-so from the sheriff's department came to read today. Our school board superintendent came to read today. Share things like that. I've never done Dot Day, but I'm getting ready to do Dot Day. So that's what I'm going to be sharing in a few weeks. We book fairs. I showcase what we're selling, and book fair schedules if parents want to come in. Anytime we do a mystery Skype with social studies, we'll share, and I talk to the kids. I show them, I'll post on Twitter and share, and I'll tag, and they're like, oh, cool. The people will write back, oh, yeah, it's so neat. So-and-so from Montana is writing us back. One of the coolest things I shared was one of our ELA classes. We have tiles in our ceiling, and they painted book covers, and we put them back in our ceiling. And so I posted them on Twitter, and I tagged all of the authors, and pretty much every author retweeted or tagged back. And so I printed it out for the class. They thought that was the coolest thing, that authors were seeing their paintings. I do book, it's called Talk About It Tuesday, and we're starting our first one this coming Tuesday because we just got back to school. And the kids they can submit a book talk. So I do it's just 2 or 3 sentences. Why do you like this book? Why should other kids read it? And I take a picture of them holding the book, and the kids love seeing it they look at Instagram, but I'll tweet it. And last year we had several authors email autographed bookmarks and autographed books to the kids. They're like, oh, we saw it. Can you send me your email? And I just think that was the coolest thing. The kids were like, that author, my favorite author, actually saw that I did a book talk and sent me an autographed bookmark. It's just little things like that you just everyday thing, book talks. We do a lot of STEM. I have a beehive that we tweet constantly about the beehive.
Yeah. So maybe now is a good time to ask about the beehive, because it stopped me in my tracks. I was trying to come up with a clever set of questions for the beehive. If you wouldn't mind sending me some sort of resource that I can also share out with our listeners, but would you please explain to those who have not seen your pictures on social media about your beehive?
Okay, so a few years ago, we were reading Escape from Mr. Limoncello's Library, a school-wide one book, one school read. And a friend of mine was working with me, and she saw on somewhere on social media this indoor beehive that you could get, where the bees, they travel in and out through a tube, but it's a glass observational box. And as a joke, she said, I dare you to get one of these. You'll be like Mr. Limoncello's Library, something cool and different. And I never backed down from a dare. So I started researching it, and I found out there's actually a grant for it. and it's called the Be Cause Foundation and the Whole Kids Foundation actually have a grant, and the grant's actually opening. I want to say in about 2 or 3 weeks, the cycle is opening again, and you can apply for it. And it's they will send you an indoor observational beehive. It's about probably 3 feet tall, 2 feet wide. It's I call it a shadow box, but it's on a hinge, and you can turn it so you can look at both sides. It's glass on both sides, and you can actually watch the bees laying eggs, making honey. And it's on a wall that there's a tube attached at the top, and they fly in and out to the outside. And they do fly to a courtyard that is locked that the kids can't get into, but they actually won't sting you. I walk around it all the time. They're so focused on flying in and out. That's the first thing parents say. Are their kids access to this? I'm like, no, but even if they were, they're so focused on flying in and out. But we have this beehive, and the first year we had a contest on social media, name the queen bee. And so they named her Beyonce. Yeah, so our local the news reporters came out and did a news segment on it. But we do so many lessons in fifth grade science classes. We do pollination activities, life cycles. I have the microscopes that hook up to laptops. So we'll take the dead bees and we'll examine the parts of the bee and the life cycle. And there's so many ways you can incorporate it into the standards with our fifth grade science. And then when we're not doing that, it's just there for them to look at. So I have a huge basket of magnifying glasses, and the kids come in every day. We have an entire bee research section with books on bees that we Donors Choose donated. Did a Donors Choose project and got all of that equipment donated and books donated. But the Bee Cause Foundation, they'll even send you a check to help you get started with your first beehive. But fortunately, we've had community members donate hives. Our hive last year, they swarmed and left us, which is pretty common. And the kids were so sad for the 2 months that we didn't have the bees. And I just installed a new hive right before school started, and I did it completely by myself and with a bee suit on, and it was very scary. But that's the first thing parents ask at orientation. Can we come in and see the beehive? And so my thought process is anything that'll get them to come into your library, let them come look at the bees, and then I'll hit them with some book suggestions.
Nice. Well, I do. Please do send me your resources, because I know, especially because there's all this concern about hive death and pollination and their crises of bees across the world, honestly. I know selfishly I'm trying to create a lot of pollinating opportunities in my own backyard, but nothing compares to having a hive in your library. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really neat. And there's actually a lot of, you can sign up for Skype a Scientist. And there's some really good scientists out there that will Skype us and talk. We'll take the camera over by the hive, and they'll talk all about what's going on in our hive. And it's really neat. And our state insect is the honeybee.
Oh, that's wonderful. I don't know what Michigan state insect is. I'm going to have to find out. All right, let me move along. Tell me, I'm a digital immigrant, which means I'm a woman of a certain age. And I really liked that you included tech tools to spice up your posts. This is fantastic because it really does make your posts pop and stand out. Could you talk a little bit about your favorite things to give your posts that special, boost, if you will?
My favorite thing, my absolute favorite app to use is Canva. And I don't even use the paid version. I just use the free version because you can go in and you can say, I want to make an announcement. The library is going to be open all 4 recess shifts tomorrow. Well, I could just type that out in boring type, or I can use Canva and create a meme or a really cute visual to go along with it that will catch our parents' attention more than just typing out. So Canva, I use Canva for everything constantly. Another one I use is Boomerang, which is like, it kind of creates a GIF or GIF, I guess is how you say it. And so it's like a little short video. I love to use Boomerang, especially when the kids, if they create something with moving parts in our makerspace at recess. If I take a still picture, that's one thing. But if I take a Boomerang and it shows how so they make a Ferris wheel out of straw bees. Well, if the wheel's spinning, that's cuter than just posting a regular picture because it shows how their thing is working. And My third favorite thing is I'm really obsessed with Doink, the green screen app. And I was very unfortunate at ISTE. I met the lady who created Doink. In fact, I thought it was pronounced Doink. For me, it was pronounced Doink.
I've heard Do Ink, so I've heard it pronounced as Do Ink as well.
She corrected me. She said it's Doink. I said I never would have thought that. But I love the green. It's so easy to use, and the kids can use it to post to create stuff. In fact, we had a class come in yesterday, and our internet went out, and the whole plan was a flip hunt, which when your internet goes out is not the best thing. So we brought nonfiction books out old school style, but they were like, can we do a green screen picture on space while we're here? Because they were researching space. So Doink, you can use, all the time. The kids love to see themselves superimposed with funny backgrounds.
Wow. I love what you mentioned about Plan B, because unfortunately, and that is, one thing that causes people to sort of be a little hesitant about technology is if you base your lesson on, oh, by the way, we have the internet connection and it goes down, all of a sudden you're moving on to Plan A, B, or Plan C. The last thing I wanted to ask you is that, and I'm always embarrassed but how do you get more followers on social media? And you dedicate some time to how to get more followers on social media. And I think that that's something we all would like to know.
It's first you need to know your stakeholders. Because if you look at my Facebook compared to Instagram compared to Twitter, I have way fewer followers on Twitter because in my community, no one uses Twitter as far as parents and students, but our district personnel does, which is why I even have a Twitter. Facebook and Instagram are the big platforms in my community. But the best way I've found, I've done contests where you post your picture it's library card sign up month, post your picture and you'll be entered into a contest. And that gets a few followers. But the biggest thing I find is just posting pictures of the kids because parents start tagging each other and sharing. And for example, at orientation this year, we have it's like an open house, but we call it orientation. And so I set up a green screen in the library. I said, come on into the library and check out a book and take a green screen picture, look at our beehive. So I took pictures of students and family members in front of the green screen. And granted, it took 4 hours to put all 100, 200 pictures together with the backgrounds. But the minute I posted it, within 24 hours, I had 200 or 300 additional followers on Facebook because they all saw themselves and they all started tagging their friends and their friends tagged their friends. And then hey, she posts pictures on this thing. We need to like this library page. And the same with Instagram. They see their pictures and so anytime you have a big event, especially with the moms and dads and aunts and uncles, and take as many pictures as possible because I found that people like to see themselves on social media, and they just start tagging and sharing each other.
Oh, that's fantastic. Can you tell me, again, I'm going to sound old. I just feel like when I'm on social media, it is it's like time disappears. Like I'm there, and can you tell me how do you do this and not feel like you're just on your device all the time?
When I first started, I did feel like I devoted a really large amount of time to building up followers, and sometimes I still have, like I said, here and there, snapshots all during the day, and then at night it probably takes about 5 minutes to make a post. And there are apps out there that you can post, make one post and it'll post on multiple platforms. I'm a little obsessive compulsive about it, because there are different platforms and I'm trying to reach different people that I word things differently. So for the parents, I use parent language. Instagram, I use the kid language. And then I get a little more professional sounding on Twitter because I know my district personnel is looking, not more professional, but more education jargon. And but there are apps out there that can post on multiple sites at the same time. But I really, maybe 20 minutes a day I spend posting. I've encouraged them to, if they have a question, just email me, because they used to post a lot of questions. Parents would post lots of questions on Facebook. And now I encourage them to email me, but 20 minutes maybe. Now, sometimes I do get pulled into that rabbit hole of starting to look at everybody's. I get sucked in. I'm like, well, while I'm on Facebook, let me look at this and this. But it doesn't take long to post for school.
Well, and if you consider these are your taxpayers. This is your community who is going to defend your job in the times of budget cuts. This is your community that's going to come to your fundraisers. This is your community that's going to think of your program first if they want to make a donation or if they want to turn their energy into something that would benefit their children directly. So it is time well spent.
It is, and our community is like we're very family oriented. We're very we always say our school family, our kids our students are our family, because a lot of people that go to the students that attend the school, their parents went there. I mean, just like I taught at the school, but they're very family oriented and they like to see what's going on. But they also, when you advocate for your library using social media and you prove that what you do with donations is that you're turning it right back into kids for these programs, I have no problem raising money. We have a readathon coming up in a few weeks, and I will raise at least $5,000 in 2 weeks of people just wanting to donate because they see what I do with the money. I'm not squandering it. I'll post on social media, hey, thank you for raising this much, and now watch in 2 months and you're going to see what I bought with this money. And like last year, I bought a sectional and a whole new sectional for the kids and some new seating. I said, this is where your money went. Anytime I posted Donors Choose, it's usually funded within days, if not hours. I posted one last week on the day they were doing the Bill and Melinda Gates matching. I posted it at 5 a.m. right when I got up from, I used Canva, made it flashy, posted at 5 a.m. By 7 a.m. it was fully funded.
Wow. Oh,
yes.
All right.
That take advantage of it, but
but you know what? I think that could be another episode is GoFundMe and Donors Choose. So we're not done here, but I do want to give you an opportunity before we end this episode to give us all of your social media because I really do think that it's fun to see how somebody who does this well does this. I look at your examples and I say, oh, now I can understand what you're talking about. So before I say goodbye, please let us know where we can find you on social media.
Okay. And I do want to say that my presentation, Put Your Selfie Out There, I had to do a shortened version at ISTE, but I will be at AASL National Conference in November doing an hour-long presentation on the same thing. So it'll be a little more in-depth, a lot more in-depth. So if anybody's going to AASL, I will be there presenting on that and on OERs. And a lot of the stuff that I do in my library, the STEM that I've been talking about, I will talk about with OERs. But my Facebook is LOM for Live Oak Middle School. So it's LOM Library. And my Instagram is at LOM_library. And then my Twitter is at LO Middle Library. And then I have a website, lomlibrary.org. And I post a lot of stuff on my website. So I'm very proud of it. So I hope people will check out my website too.
Oh, it's fantastic. I'll make sure to put a link on the show notes. I am so jealous that you are going to AASL. And I think that everyone who gets a chance to meet you in person is going to realize what a delight you are. Thank you, Amanda, so much for helping me share all that you have with our listeners.
Oh, you're welcome. I could talk about it all day long.
But I'll tell you what, you've given us so much to go on. I really do appreciate you sharing your expertise today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
I'd like to extend a very special thank you to Amanda Jones, whose resources made recording this episode so meaningful to everyone who had a chance to listen. I would like to thank you for listening today. If you know someone in your district or your PLN or a classmate in library school who would benefit from this podcast, please mention it at your next meeting. In advance of Banned Book Week, in a celebration of our freedom to read, it's this year, September 22nd to 28th, I've included a link to the ALA's resource page for free downloads, programming ideas, strategies, and resources. Be sure to tune in next week when the topic will be challenges and banned books. I hope you will tune in.